Hi everyone, I am Joey Haber. I teach Kung Fu and Capoeira at the Flying Tortoise Academy in Portland, Oregon. And welcome once again to my basement. The daily Kung Fu long form videos I think have kind of run their course, but what I'd like to give everyone now is a glimpse into how I train. And it's my hope that the information I pass on here, along with the explanations that I can give it, will help you out in your training a little. So yeah, please be sure to ask questions. If you have anything you want to talk to me about, I'm more than happy to engage you on the forums beneath. And I hope you enjoy what's coming next. Thanks so much for watching. Okay, feet. How do you lift them? Right? How do you take your foot and bring it off the ground? Something that most of us can do. It's something that most of us do quite a bit. But the process by which we raise the foot really is anything but simple. If you watch, a baby learn how to crawl and then walk, you can see just how much is involved in the subtle coordination of stepping. And from there, we kind of fall into our patterns of, how we walk around, and that's great. But for Kung Fu, it's really important that the step not just carry your weight, right, but carries you in a balanced way, in a way that can then take pressure really at any point in the transition from foot to foot or forward to back weightedness. In Kung Fu, if we step like a controlled fall, every part of that fall we're off balance, and then in the landing we have to regain our balance. There's a lot of time lost and a lot of opportunity for something to happen to us that we might not want. And so the way the foot relates to the ground is of utmost importance. And it's one of the things that my teachers have really harped on the most in my training in Beijing. One of the first consistent lessons that was taught between styles, that's between the Pao Chui, Liang, Chun Bagua folks, Li Taiji folks, and the various Xingyi dudes who kind of mill around and drop in from time to time, is that you have to engage the ground actively, right? It's not enough for the foot to just kind of flump and relax. There's a draw from the ground, and that's something that's often kind of misconstrued in Western culture as an energetic draw, that you're pulling something magical out of the ground and then wheeling those magic around like some sort of martial arts wizard, which sounds nifty, but I haven't met one of those yet. What it means to me, and what I think it means to my teachers, and I'll be able to get from them, is that you're physically pulling the ground with your feet. And this is a purely anatomical thing that's going on here. The feet have 26 bones in them, right? A whole lot of muscles and ligaments, and have a vast amount of movement potential. If the foot is just slack, right, there's no engagement in that foot, you can kind of wiggle your ankle around and feel how there's not much engagement here. If there's not much engagement in that lower leg, the tibialis anterior, through the gastroc in the back, if that's all soft, then the knee's loose. You can try to engage your quads above that, but you're always going to be walking on this kind of fickle structure, trying to hold on to a thing that has no core to it, right? Grabbing with the feet supplies that core. The nature of this grab isn't a hard death grip, right? We're not trying to force choke somebody. It's more just a subtle engagement from the great toe, which is that first toe here, and the second toe, the one immediately adjacent, as they gently pull the ground. And what this is going to do is cause the arch of your foot to lift just a bit. It's not a death grab. Again, that death grab makes for stilts, and stilts are an uncomfortable fighting surface. You want just enough of a grab that can find engagement in that lowest part of your leg. Okay, and that engagement might feel like a little bit of a tightening and a pulling around the musculature in the front here, on the side of the tibia. You might feel the calf, the gastroc engage a little bit. And from that slight pull and that draw up, it then becomes possible to pull that draw into the upper legs, right? And if you're standing like in a high horse stance, just feet to even, grab gently with the toes on the inside and feel the weight sort of spread out from there, the next thing I feel light up are the muscles in the inside of the thigh, those adductor muscles, okay? And then the pulse kind of stops. It sort of buzzes out right around that qua area, that inguinal area, and doesn't quite make it to the yao, that big track of body that goes around the waist. So the question then is, how do we take this pull and get it into the belly, right? Well, for that, we need the umbilicus to draw slightly toward the spine. What this is going to do is pull the pelvis to neutral. We're not trying to tuck the tailbone and create some weird curvature. We're not trying to flatten out the back. We want to utilize the natural springiness of the S curve of the spine, right? But we also want to make sure that the pelvis is engaged such that the belly can come online and that this draw from the foot can be felt all the way up into the middle. So now every bit of movement that comes from the ground reflects upward and upward and upward and becomes accessible in the middle. So all of a sudden, when we step in our stance, when we take a step, we're not stepping out with the foot so much, we're stepping out with that belly, right? And the belly is controlling us. It's making this movement very, very light, right? Even though at the same time, it can take a tremendous amount of force and deliver a tremendous amount of force in kind. And so that muscular engagement and that springiness that comes from coordinating these muscle groups together is absolutely vital to move in any way in Kung Fu, and also, you know, in Capoeira when it's done well. From there, the chest rounds and concaves a little bit as the clavicles, these long bones here, knit just a little. The aesthetic of this is from neutral here to knit. See, it's a very, very slight shift. And as that happens, the scapulas, those flat bones here, they splay out a little bit, just to kind of give a nice concavity to the front. And what that's going to do is a couple of things. The first, it's going to take pressure off your heart. And if you're doing any kind of fa li movement where you're drawing force up, rounding the middle and accelerating it out, you don't want that force to get caught around the heart. It's one of the classic faux pas in Kung Fu. It can lead to injury and all kinds of problems. So again, be nice to your hearts. From there, the head and neck raises slightly, and that means that all this pole has a clean vector from which to escape. And now when we step, we have the suspension, right? So we have that classic grabbing earth, person in the center, drawing to heaven, earth, man, heaven, the classic, you know, three treasures of Kung Fu, right? That should always be present in your posture. Once we have a good posture, now we can talk about taking a step. And so all of that is just the precursor of what you need to understand about your body and how to hold self before you can even begin to venture into movement. When we take a step, what we're doing is lifting the foot off the ground and moving it to a new place, right? The big question here is, what do we move first? What do we initiate the movement from? If we initiate from our knees, it's like we're walking down the street, right? Knee, reach, knee, step, knee, step. You can see how there's a raise of the knee, and then I step out from there. Classic, you know, just a person walking down the street. The problem, again, is that every step has that controlled fall. So lifting from the knee doesn't really have that engaged draw of the belly. So then how do we get that? Well, we want to initiate from the quad or inguinal, right? We want to lift from the hip and step out from the hip and then follow through. And as we step from the hip, the whole body's rolling with, and we can move out in a far more controlled and focused manner than stepping out from the knee, okay? But it's not as easy as just think hip, step hip, right? We need to find a way of really organizing ourselves to move from a different joint. And the best way I found of teaching that and of practicing myself is as follows. Starting with the feet to even, engage those basic principles we talked about a minute ago, right? That gentle foot grab, gentle belly draw to the spine, knitting of the clavicles, softening of the chest, raising of the head neck. And now we have that axial, that center part of our body, that axial skeleton all on line and holding us up. From there, we want to lighten the leg that we're going to use to step. And to do that, I'm going to take the weight from here and put it over here. And there, again, there are a few ways we can do that. We can shift the weight in the hip, though now we've lost our central axial skeletal draw, which is, you know, kind of the point to maintain that. We can drop the weight down to the side, the same thing, even though that diagonal shift is a bit more focused and maintains more structure than the horizontal shift. It still is a similar kind of issue where we're breaking that, you know, draw up and kind of nerfing what we're trying to do in the onset. What we want to do is maintain suspension as we pull the weight up and over. And so instead of bringing it across here or down like that, we're going to lift that hip into the belly, have it round up and over, and then press into the other leg. And so there's a lift, pull, and then as that weight presses down, like we're pushing the, you know, top plunger of a syringe, right? The other foot responds like in an almost hydraulic way and lifts from the hip. Then to practice, I just return to even. If I really want to, you know, be thorough, I shake everything out, and then foot grab, belly draw, chest relax, clavicles draw, head neck lift. I do the whole checklist every single time, just to make sure that I'm getting into the habit of doing that whole checklist every single time I step. With the checklist established, once again, I lift through my belly, pull the weight up and over, right at the level of that lower dantian, right at the level 3 finger width lengths beneath the umbilicus, pressing down into the other leg, using that pressure to raise the foot up. And now I can play with knee height. And I want to feel how the muscles of my stomach are changing depending on how high or low the leg is. And here, what I'm really working with is a muscle called the psoas, and the ilial psoas. The psoas is this muscle that fans over the pelvis and draws up to the 12th thoracic vertebra. At that 12th thoracic vertebra, you also get connections to the diaphragm, which is the other muscle in the body that travels front to back. And so as I lift up and down, I'm feeling that draw up through the psoas change as the leg changes height, and the belly musculature is going to change in kind. From there, I can work on external rotation, feeling how that rolls in the belly as the leg rolls. Internal rotation, similar roll. When I'm ready, I can set back down, or I can press down a little more, step out to the side, and work on drawing that weight back to neutral. And if I want to change legs, I can turn this into a really fun little drill of just stepping 1, 2, across, and 3, and just really train the hell out of this. It's a fantastic exercise just for how to lift the leg up, and then as we go to Bagua, it pays even more dividends, because again, in Bagua, it's a mobile stance, right? Much like the Jenga and Capoeira, we're always stepping from foot to foot. And if my stepping is a little bit wrong first, just me kind of walking down the street, falling into the foot, there's no engagement here. There's no engagement here. I'm just kind of stepping, trying to pull my weight, because I read somewhere that in Bagua, you're supposed to pull your weight. If I want to really step from my middle, I need to change that a little bit. And so with the feet together, I can do our old exercise that we just learned just a second ago, of drawing the weight up and through, lift, step, pulling the weight up, releasing the big toe in the back foot as we do in Liang Bagua, and then pulling that weight up through the hip, pressing in, step out, draw, big toe lift, pulling that weight up and over, stepping out, pulling the weight over to the foot, drawing the foot up. And so now my stepping is predicated on this pouring of weight. And it starts out kind of slow because we're thinking about a lot. And then as we get more comfortable, the aesthetic begins to change. Now that pull becomes effortless. I can reach as I step without any tension, because my belly is just articulating and rolling through each successive step. Anywhere I need to stop my weight, I have the balance, that supporting leg, the belly above it, and everything is set ready to go. If I baibu to change direction, I'm already turning before I commit to the subsequent kobu, and everything flows nice and clean in a way that it just can't if I transition back to not using my stomach to step here. You may not be able to see it, but there's a distinct wobble in each of my legs. I feel unclear about how far I can reach out my foot because the belly isn't guiding that reach. I don't feel strong as I pull the ground because I'm just grabbing my foot muscles, and those are small compared to the combined musculature of that zhong ti li, of that full body movement that circle walking is supposed to be. And I can fake, the aesthetic pretty well, but the body feel is just empty. If I slowly change that to belly engagement, and then change that to pulling that weight up and through the middle in every successive step, all of a sudden, the confidence of my movement increases. I feel like one unified structure as opposed to a bunch of pieces sprinting to keep up. And the circle walking starts to feel really, really nice. So yeah, I've been messing around with that for a while, but with that verbiage for just a couple weeks now. I hope you all enjoy it. I hope it's a theme that's, came across in the video. Again, I haven't taught this very much, so if you have suggestions on ways I can better explain it, I'm always happy to hear. And yeah, stay safe out there, wash your hands, and I'll post more of these when I get more ideas.